Lots of people do what I eat in a days, but some days you eat more than other days, just as some days you exercise more than other days. So, how long would you need to cover to find out what your average diet is like? How about 1 week? Let's try it. On Monday, I had a vitamin, then some Nescafe coffee with sweeteners, what I call half calf, a mix of decaf and ordinary, and some malt wheats with semi-skimmed milk. Getting milk delivered has really helped me decrease my milk consumption, by the way, in case you're concerned about the environment. Then I had some homemade carrot cake, tea, and I reheated this sweet potato pasta dish for lunch, adding some cheese, pine nuts, flax and millet, poppy seeds, and here it is. And here it is cooked. And here it is on a plate with rocket and a spring onion and a beer. And after that, I had some homemade apple and blackberry crumble with almonds on top. And here I am making potato wedges for dinner, adding some garlic oil, garlic salt, Cajun, and paprika. I have with one of these strong roots kale and quinoa burgers, and I served it with seeded bread, red onion, cucumber, mayonnaise, and rocket. Here it is. And then I had some squash, some funky gin, and I snacked on a teaspoon of cashew butter. Tuesday, I started with my vitamin again. Then I had Greek style yogurt with 2 chopped plums for breakfast and a cup of coffee. A peanut butter sandwich for lunch and a cup of tea, a glass of Diet Coke, and then I cooked dinner. Sautéed chopped red onion, 4 diced potatoes, frozen spinach, ricotta, and ground almonds. Now defrosted and squeezed. I used puff pastry, lemon juice, and garlic. Here it all is in a pan with some salt and stirred up. And in the pastry, ready to bake and baked. I served it with some roasted broccoli, bitter lemon, and then had more coffee, a bit of blackberry and apple crumble, and some Laughing Llama Cabernet Sauvignon, and a rum and pineapple. On Wednesday, I started the day with my vitamin, a coffee, and a fried egg sandwich. I had another coffee, and for lunch, this cauldron sausage flatbread with mayo, onion, crisps, and rocket, and a blood orange San Pellegrino. Later, I had some crumble and some tarte au citron, another coffee, and then I went berserk and did a lot of cooking. So I'm prepping 2 dishes here, a fajita mix and a spicy bean soup. I chopped some white onion and introduced black beans, pinto beans, azuki beans, button mushrooms, and fresh chili. Rinse those beans. Add in basil oil, stock cubes, and for the fajita mix, cumin, dried bell pepper, coriander. For both chili powder, chili flakes, I like it hot, and soya mince in the fajita mix, sugar in both, and tinned tomato, water, lemon juice, and of course Henderson's relish, which is a veggie Worcestershire sauce made in Sheffield. I put tons of that in both. then fresh ginger and garlic in the beans. And here is the finished fajita mix and the finished soup. I had some of the fajita mix in a seeded wrap with jalapenos and sour cream. And finally, I had a slice of homemade panfort, some olives, and a spoonful of cashew butter. For Thursday, there's my vitamin again. Homemade muesli and milk. I need that Tupperware to keep the cat off it. And coffee, of course. I had some more tart with sour cream, another fajita wrap because I made so much food yesterday, tonic water, a double chocolate mini roll, and some tea. For dinner, we had the rest of the spinach pastry, no broccoli this time because we had a cheese and whisk tasting Zoom event. Here's the spread with some olives and crackers. And then it's Friday. Starting with the vitamin, another fried egg sandwich and coffee and tea. And now I'm cooking again. I'm making plain scones with poppy seeds on top for lunch. Look, there's my cat. Hello, Iris. We ate these with a mixture of homemade jams and some cream, some barley squash, and I had the spicy bean soup for dinner, then some cheesecake and some gin. On Saturday, I had my vitamin, malt wheats and milk, and coffee and tart, because who doesn't like a dessert with breakfast? We went out over lunch, so I prepped these egg mayo wraps with onion and rocket. And we had it with Piper's tomato crisps, San Pellegrino, wild blackberries, and water. We went for a beer in a pub, which I haven't got a picture of, and then I snacked on a banana, tea, and cheesecake, and fried up this tofu for Thai curry with onion, pepper, baby corn, broccoli, mange peas, coconut cream, and spices, served with rice and gin. Finally, on Sunday, I had a vitamin, then a poached egg and avocado guacamole on toasted potato cake. There's yogurt, garlic, and salt in that. And coffee, another coffee. And the rest of the bean soup with some homemade rosemary bread. And water, I snacked on banana, tea, and cheesecake. And we had the rest of the curry for dinner with paratha and pearl barley. And some Society's Rupertsberg, olives, and another cup of tea. Let's have a look at how I did. As you can see, my calorific intake was all over the place. The orange line is the average over the week and the yellow line is the daily recommended average for a woman. However, bear in mind a few things about me. I'm shorter than average, so my base metabolic rate is lower and I need fewer calories than the average woman. But I'm also breastfeeding and pumping at the moment, which means I need about 480 calories a day more, and I'm highly active. So let's have a look at that activity a little more closely. During the week, I did 3 runs, which is about typical for me, on Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. I went walking in the woods on Saturday for 4 hours, and I went climbing on Sunday. This brings us to an overall 10 hours of exercise, or about 1.5 hours a day, burning 4,200 calories, or 600 a day, travelling over 55 kilometres horizontally and over 3 kilometres vertically. Now when you look at my week, you can see I did a lot of running on Tuesday, then 8 more over the next 4 days to gradually make up for it. According to this, I end the week on a small average calorie deficit of about 200 calories a day, but I'm willing to believe that this shrinks to basically nothing once errors in averaging portion sizes and base metabolic rate are taken into account. I mean, let's face it, aren't I more likely to have underestimated my food than overestimated? So Chronometer, which is the tool I use to estimate these, tells me I've only had 39% of my protein and lights up in red. But when I actually do the daily recommended amounts provided by the NHS, you find I'm about bang on for carbs, I'm over on fats, and I'm actually over on protein even though I'm a vegetarian. So that's all that cashew butter, and this actually makes sense as I do tend to eat fewer carbs than fats and protein in general, and I was over the daily recommended calories for a woman, so I should be over the daily recommended for macronutrients. I also had a look at sugars, fibre and salt. So the daily recommendation for sugars is less than 90 grams, of which 30 grams are free sugars. And Chronometer does not break down different types of sugars, but I was on 70.5 grams overall as an average for each day, so I think that's fine. It's under 90 anyway. My fibre was pretty close to the daily recommended amount of 30 grams, and my salt was under the daily recommended amount of 6 grams max. That's also going to be because I use low salt, which is a mixture of potassium chloride and sodium chloride, so my sodium level is reduced because of the fact that I'm using that. So in these plots, what I have done is I have plotted with the bar what I had, and I've plotted with the blob what the daily recommended amount is. Most of these are from the NHS, but not all of them were available from there, so I've used other sources which I will list at the end. These are my amino acids and my omega-3 and my omega-6. As you can see, I'm either bang on or over for everything apart from omega-3. And this one is my minerals, and as you can see, I am on or over for everything apart from for potassium, which makes sense because when I had blood work done, it showed that my potassium levels were a bit low, and that was the only thing that was low. And that's also why I moved to using the low salt, because that bumps up my potassium levels. Also, I eat quite a lot of bananas. As you saw, it's my fruit of choice, and that also bumps up your potassium levels, which is good. And on this one, this has got all my vitamins. And on all of these, I am over or on the daily recommended amount. I also want to point out the bioavailability. So just because I'm eating more than enough doesn't necessarily mean I would be getting enough. And also to point out that because I'm breastfeeding, my requirements for some of these might be higher, but I was not able to find values for all of them that related to breastfeeding, so I've used the daily recommended amounts for a woman rather than a mixture of the two different kinds. Even though I repeated meals across the week, nutrients have been met by eating 20 different vegetables, of which 4 were beans, 13 different fruits, which is 5 fresh ones, 5 in jams, 4 dried ones, mostly in the muesli, and 2 juices. I ate 6 different nuts and 4 different seeds and 6 different grains. That's things like rice, pearl barley. And these are the sources of the recommended daily allowances. I hope that that's been interesting. I would not recommend changing your diet to base it on mine. I'm just simply showing you what I eat in a week and what that means in terms of my micro, macro, nutrient and energy.